Welcome to the Check Swing Podcast, brand new podcast here, the New Twist Radio. Make sure you subscribe to the New Twist Radio YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button right on down there. Also, make sure you join our text community at 215-486-0335. Now, new podcast, new show known as Check Swing. I'm sorry, I'm checking my door, make sure my doors are shut, but they're not. They were, but they're not now. Check Swing Podcast with myself. Y'all know who I am. Well, most of y'all, those who don't know me, I'm Jay Chris. Jay Watson Radio, man. You see it right down there. Right there.
Right there. You got it.
Right over there, we got Pops. What up, Pops? He
What's up?
got the P on his hat and on his shirt for his name.
Baseball been very good to me.
We got Pops over there doing his thing. And, we have come together to put this podcast together for you. And what does that mean? So with this show that we have put together for you, we are baseball coaches. Okay. He is a coach. I am a coach. We have coached together. We are also going to have other coaches on the show. We're actually scheduled to have some more today. And we're going to give you a perspective that maybe you're not used to seeing or hearing. We're going to give you the perspective of coaching and participating in the game of baseball from a different type of perspective, more so from the minority perspective, because that's really the only perspective. If you look at us, there's really the only perspective that we can give you, right? But also, other sports too. We're not just going to be talking about baseball. We're going to be talking about some other sports as well. We're going to be getting into some debates and stuff like that. And we have one debate right from the rip, right? This very first show that we were talking about actually 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to wait just a little bit. I'm going to give my man Pops a chance to introduce himself, to familiarize himself with the people. So Pop, do I call you Pops now? Am I supposed to call you Pops? What we got?
Whatever you want, man. Like I said when we were kind of setting things up, I was gonna go with Saturday Night Special, but number one, it was too wordy, and I didn't think people would recognize the reference to this jersey. So pops is fine.
Well, the jersey is, of course, the throwback Phillies.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. One of of course, my favorite squad. The Saturday Night Special thing, I'll let you talk about that another time. But I think right now what we really want to do is get into the debate that we were having a while ago. And R Dot was with us, and I want R Dot to hopefully come back and he can join us in this show. But right now we're going to have a slight debate, and you know what? I want to wait. I want to wait for this debate, right?
Okay.
Because one of my favorite athletes of all time has come under a little bit of fire for some things that he said, and I feel like I want to defend him because he's one of my favorite athletes of all time. Talking about Dr. J. For those who don't know, Dr. J, Julius Irving is a former Sixer, former New Jersey Net from the ABA, but he's considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Long story short, he was on another podcast. They asked him his first and second All NBA teams. Now he left LeBron off the list. Okay, and he had some things that he said for why he left LeBron off the list, right? But like I said, the man he's like my favorite player, basketball player of all time. Now, if you know Dr. J and seen his interviews and stuff like that, you would know that Dr. J, his first team, I think it was Jerry West, Will Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor, and I forgot who the other one was. Five of them. Dr. J's top five has always been the same since he's been in the league. Since people have cared enough to ask him what his top five were. Now his next five: Michael Jordan, um, who else? Whoever, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, who the hell ever
Whoever
else
he
was on
played
it.
with.
Guess who else wasn't on the list? And I feel more controversy about that than LeBron not being on the list. I know Kobe wasn't on that list either. Nobody said
Really?
anything about Kobe not being on that list, right? It is what it is. But I say that to say, and I know we talk more so about basketball or baseball. LeBron doesn't have to be on everybody's list, people. He doesn't. It just is what it is. Now, Miguel, did you want to speak on that at all, or did you want to get into the debate? I
Well, I
just had
think
to get that off my chest. I'm sorry.
so. I mean, I think I get where it's kind of the same debate. Like, is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback that ever lived? Right. I'm an '80s baby, so I was brought up on Marino, on Elway, on Montana, and I think for me, like I always thought Montana was the greatest because flat out he never lost in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like Brady lost two Super Bowls. He can't beat the NFC East. You know what I mean? So
That's very interesting that you say that because a lot of people say Mike's the best because he never lost
he
in the
never
finals,
lost, right?
and then some people say LeBron's the best and he's lost 3 times in the finals. No shit. Ooh, excuse me. More than that, he's lost. He's lost more than 3 times in the finals. He
Right.
lost with Cleveland. He lost twice with Miami, and he lost 3 times
Three
with
times.
Cleveland, or 2 times with Cleveland. Let's just say he's lost at least 5.
Right.
He's lost at least 5. But yeah, you finish your point if you want to finish. I'm sorry.
But it's like it's like in the '70s and the '80s, a dynasty was what a team that won like three in a row, right? But when you look at like the Red Sox, they won like four or five between in a 10-year span, but it wasn't like consecutively. So
Right.
it's like dynasties even nowadays are different for our generation than it was back in the day. So it's almost like losing one here or there is okay. Whereas back in our day growing up, it's like no, you if you lost, then you kind of your credibility would go down a little bit. You know what I mean?
I have I have one when you talk about dynasties, I have one thing in particular that needs to happen for me to consider it a dynasty. And I don't think I make any excuses about it. You have to win back to back.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to. At some point during your run, you have to win back to back. If you don't win back to back, I don't consider it a dynasty. You're just a really good team that had a very good run.
So right, and I think that's what kind of like the Phillies should have been a dynasty, I think.
Should have.
But so and I agree because it's like you win the championship in '08, then '09 kind of proved that '08 wasn't really a fluke. But if '09 didn't happen, then yeah, '08 would technically be a fluke. So I definitely agree with you there. Yeah.
Which will bring us to our debate. And for those that are baseball fans, you're going to love this debate. And because Miguel asked me the question when we were talking about it I'm sorry, Pops. Since Pops asked me the question a few weeks ago when we first started talking about it, I'm going to ask him the question now. And if he asks me the question back, I'm probably going to have a different answer because I don't remember all everything I said. But anyway, your Mount Rushmore of baseball is who?
So do we want to set up a criteria for it?
Well, I
Because
no. I mean,
So Mount Rushmore is what like the founding fathers, right?
not to me.
Not to okay.
So I guess I mean, like in real life, I
Hmm.
guess that's what it would be. But is
I
Lincoln
got
a
you.
founding father? I don't know. I don't know if he's considered a founding father.
No, you're right. He's not
You
a
got
founding father.
Washington, Madison, Jefferson. I think on that. I think that's what it is. But when people have the debate about the Mount Rushmore, it's really a thing of who do you think is who's your top 4 of all time?
And did we do when we were having this discussion? Was it specifically black or Latino players? I
No,
couldn't.
but there was no specifics
There
to
was
it.
no okay. But they're all gonna be black and Latino, so I'm just letting you know that now. So for me, and I think when I'm thinking about like Mount Rushmore, I'm thinking these people were legends. Like either because of what they did for their career or what they did in spots. So for me, I would go Hank Aaron.
Okay.
Um, you know, kind of leading to another debate. After that, I would say I would also add, damn, Willie Mays, five greatest 5-2 player of all time. I think you got to put a picture on there, so I would go Bob Gibson
Okay,
and Mr. October, Reggie Jackson.
I like it. Not bad.
Actually,
Not
no,
bad.
hold up.
Uh oh.
I have to make a deletion because after a fervent 12-second prayer, I'm going to remove Hank Aaron. I'm going to remove Henry Aaron
Uh huh.
for another five-tool player, Roberto Clemente.
Ooh. Okay.
So
Okay.
Clemente, Mays, Gibson, and Jackson.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I guess you're gonna ask me the question. Like, I guess it's my turn.
Well, so and can I make add one caveat? Can we add an honorable mention?
Sure. Sure. That'll make it easier for me.
I think honorable mention or a wild card, or however you want to put it, I would add Albert Pujols.
That's a nice list. So you had Reggie Jackson, you had Bob Gibson, you had Roberto Clemente, and
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays.
Yes, sir.
And Pujols is your
Honorable
honorable
mention.
mention. So you remove Hank Aaron,
Yeah.
and he doesn't even get honorable mention.
I know. I kind of feel bad about it, but
But
he
Pujols
was
is a
kind of
machine.
slew of foot. I mean, he wasn't slow, but he didn't really win any championships.
Oh, like you froze up on us. But so when you talking about your what's it called? Your hey, he's back. There he is. You froze up for a second on when you talk when I'm thinking about the Mount Rushmore of baseball, right? What am I it's probably going to be greatness along tied into my favorite players, tied into effect on the game,
Hmm.
right? And when I think of effect on the game, one of the first people that comes to mind is Barry Bonds, of the way he affected the game, even in controversial ways, right? But he's not on my Mount Rushmore. He's just
He's
not.
not.
He's not on my Mount Rushmore. He's not. Which leads us to a whole nother debate that we had. I don't know if we're going to talk about that today, but
I think we should,
um,
but carry on.
so my Mount Rushmore would be Willie Mays. Okay, we're agreeing. We're in agreement there. Satchel Paige. Okay, Satchel Paige is on my.
Satchmo.
Then you got Josh Gibson. I'm putting him on there. Okay, because technically he is the home run king of Major League Baseball right now, being
Technically,
that
you
they
are correct.
recognize the Negro Leagues, right? Um, so that's three. So I got who that Willie Mays, Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson. It, I feel like I said Bob Gibson before. I think you said Bob
I
Gibson.
said Bob Gibson. Yeah.
And who's going to be my number four? Like the number four is always like, ah, oh, it's going to be this guy. It's going to be this guy. It's going to be this guy. There's so many people I could put in there, right? Like Pedro Martinez comes to mind for one. Roberto Clemente comes to mind. Pudge Rodriguez comes to mind. A lot of people probably wouldn't put him there, right?
Greatest catcher ever.
Pudge, yeah, Pudge is probably the greatest catcher. Is Pudge better than Benito
Yes.
Santiago? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Is he better than Lenny Webster?
Hell yeah. Hell, absolutely.
Just wondering, just wondering. So who's going to be my? Is Ken Griffey? You got Ken Griffey Jr. out there. What was that noise I just heard in my house? Um, you got hmm, who do I want to put there, man? I guess I gotta put Reggie Jackson there. I gotta put Reggie Jackson there, and then for my honorable mention, no, I'm taking. Can I take Reggie out?
Yeah, you
I don't
can.
want to take Reggie
You
out.
get one quitsies, no starties.
So like I said, it's there are things, there are factors tied into it. It's my favorite players, along with effect on the game, along with something else I said. Ricky Henderson is going on to my Mount Rushmore. Yeah, Ricky Henderson.
That's a good
He
one.
is probably the reason I like players like Juan Pierre. He's and the reason is because Juan Pierre was a base stealer.
Right, right, right.
and Ricky Henderson wasn't. Ricky Henderson might still be playing somewhere right now. Honestly,
Yeah,
let's be real.
yeah.
Ricky
With who?
Henderson was a base stealer.
He's playing with Julio Franco in the Dominican Republic.
Probably,
Two 60-year-olds.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it. He played until like 2 years ago.
Yeah, you're
so
right. You're right.
so excuse me, I'm having a little indigestion issue right now. It's tough when you have that on camera. Everybody's there to see it.
Yeah, you can't hide that.
Can't hide it. Um, so it kind of brought us to another debate that we had, and that debate was Barry Bonds. Who are you taking, Barry Bonds or Reggie Jackson? And I said I'm taking Barry Bonds hands down. Miguel said he's taking Reggie Jackson hands down. I asked a lot of people this question. I got a lot of different answers. One of the most interesting answers I got though was actually from my own father. He said Reggie Jackson. Okay, and one of the reasons he said Reggie Jackson was because Reggie Jackson was from the area, where he
Winco,
had
what?
business in the area or something like that.
Yeah, he's from Wincote, PA, so just outside of Philadelphia.
So, I'm not picking Reggie Jackson for that reason. I'm still going with Barry Bonds, but that puts a nice little that puts a little more onto it for me. The fact that Reggie Jackson's from the area. Now, you picked Reggie Jackson over Barry Bonds because what?
When you compare the two, and this is, I'm not even talking about like rumors of steroids or anything like that. Just pure numbers.
Mhm.
Barry Bonds' statistics were great from season to season.
Right,
In the postseason, he had one good postseason, and I
Barry
believe that was
Bonds.
his the one in the World Series against the Angels back in '02 or '03.
Okay.
Had a great World Series, but when you look at it prior to that, I have Barry Bonds, who's the home run king, or I have Mister October, who was always clutch. He
Was
was
he was he a 5 tool player?
in the beginning, he had the potential to be, but towards the end, no.
Mm.
However, if I'm a coach and I want to win games and I want to win World Series, I'm going Reggie Jackson because if you look at all the videos of Reggie Jackson, even if you just went if you just did something as simple as look up videos comparing Reggie Jackson and Barry Bonds, 95% of Barry Bonds' home runs that you see on replay or for show or whatever are in the season. Almost 95 to 98% of Reggie Jackson's home runs, three home runs against the A's in a World Series, the three home runs against the Dodgers in a World Series, two home runs as a California Angel in the playoffs. So for me,
Played for a lot of different teams there to
yeah,
be
he
so
and
good.
right, and
He's the LeBron
he's
James of baseball.
there. You go. Everywhere he won, or everywhere he went, he won.
As I'm
Or his
as I'm
team.
watching the Phillies game and the 2-run home run was just hit by who the hell is that guy? I'm not sure who that was. Miller, Brad Miller.
Brad Miller. I don't say. I don't like to use the word hate. I just. He's a goofy looking player.
He looks like somebody just uh,
He's like the one kid that
he looks like
like he
somebody just drove out the parking lot of MSI.
right. And he looks like the kid that that practices like 27 hours a day and um drinks like fiber water and like eats like
Probably
tree
does.
trunks.
He probably does. But so
Yeah.
your big thing with Reggie Jackson over Barry Bonds is the playoff numbers.
It's clutch. He was always clutch. Now, granted, like when Reggie Jackson would strike out, it was like an event, kind of like what they say about Babe Ruth, like he would take big swings and stuff like that. But when you needed somebody when the game is on the line, in my humble opinion, Reggie Jackson was more clutch than Barry Bonds was. Now, Barry Bonds was clutch that year. He had 73. They went to the World Series, but that was really the only time he was ever really clutch in the playoffs.
Mm. What about when he was with Pittsburgh? Was he not clutching Pittsburgh?
He was not clutching Pittsburgh. I think before he came to the Giants, I gotta see the numbers, but he was not good in the playoffs with Pittsburgh. And then the Giants didn't really make the playoffs until like later in the 1990s, and they were usually early exit teams. So
So I'm looking at Barry Bonds' numbers here, and these aren't playoff numbers. Unfortunately, I asked for playoff numbers. They gave me all the regular numbers because he didn't play 126 playoff games in 2007. I guarantee you he didn't do that. But out of 126 games he played and this is regular season. I know. Out of the 126 games he played in 2007, in 2007, he had 94 hits. 94 hits, 126 games. He had 94. He had 94 hits in those games. Scored 75 runs in those games. Had 66 RBIs in those games. He walked more times. He walked more times in 2007 than the amount of games that he played. He walked 132 times in only 126 games. So even in his last season, these pitchers still feared this man. They pitched around him for almost his entire career. In 2002, which is that the year he broke the record, or was that
uh,
2004 or something? I don't remember. Hold on,
it
wait a minute.
was 2001. He actually broke the record.
It was 2001. Okay,
2001, he had 73.
he had 177 walks in 2001, 198 walks in 2002, 148 walks in 2003, 232 walks in 2004. 232 walks in 147 games. So that would lead me to believe, and like I said, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that would lead me to believe that if you're a pitcher in the playoffs facing Barry Bonds, you are not going to pitch to him. Matter of fact, I referred to Tom Coughlin in the Miracle of the Meadowlands Part 2 when Deshaun Jackson ran back that punt. And Tom Coughlin told the kicker, do not kick to Deshaun Jackson, kick it out of bounds. I imagine that any manager in Major League Baseball facing Barry Bonds in the playoffs told their pitcher, do not pitch to him, throw around him. And I would have to believe that would affect the playoff numbers. Like if guys actually pitched to Barry Bonds in the playoffs, don't you think you got to believe his numbers would be better than they were, right?
True.
So is this debate not a fair debate? Reggie Jackson versus Barry Bonds, because you got one, like there was a time like in the 70s, right? Think about the 70s, 80s, 60s, 78. Let's think about that era. They're not pitching around you in that era. They're challenging you.
Mm-hmm.
90s seems to be, I mean, I'm not saying it never happened, but in the 90s seems like that's when pitching around somebody was more so in the game plan. Right.
Right.
So you think if Barry Bonds played in the 70s, you think his numbers would be better than Reggie's? What would would you still think you would, or would you still take Barry over Reggie? I know it's
If you line them up, if they played in the same era, I would probably lean towards Barry. Because even like if you look at like when you brought up his statistics and you look at just the walks, for instance, he averaged like 150 walks over the span of like 10 years. When I look at Reggie Jackson,
we getting all the
he
Reggie
I
messed
know
up.
all the Reggie. When you look at Reggie Jackson, he averaged like maybe like the most walks he ever had was 114, and that was once. He averaged like maybe 60 walks a year. So number one, you knew, and then he averaged like 140 strikeouts. So number one, they were throwing to him, and he was pretty much hit or miss. So even if you keep them in their areas, it's pretty obvious that you don't pitch to Barry Bonds, but you can pitch to
You
Reggie
don't.
Jackson.
You really don't pitch to Barry Bonds. I wouldn't pitch to Reggie Jackson either.
Right.
I mean, he's dangerous too, and
But
he
I think,
talks smack.
but I right, and he tell you, yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing that I loved about, obviously I wasn't like, Reggie Jackson kind of came on before I was born, but everything I look back, all the stories, and I think there's a good documentary. It was on ESPN. The Bronx is Burning.
Hmm.
Really
Yeah,
good.
that was really good.
Five. It was a 5 or 7 part series. But I think the thing that I loved about reading about Reggie Jackson is that people always associate him with the Yankees, but they always forget that he started out as a Kansas City Athletic before they moved to Oakland, and he won 3 consecutive World Series even before he came to New York. So I think his first year there was an article in the New York Times, and it talked about how he said that I'm the straw that stirs the drink, and he came into New York, said, "Yo, y'all needed me. I'm the man," and then he proved that he was the man, hitting those 3 home runs in the World Series. You know what I mean?
So absolutely, and listen, you hit them 3-1 runs in the World Series, and your team wins, and you are Reggie Jackson. You just made your money. I'm looking at Barry Bonds' playoff numbers here. And they're interesting numbers. Okay. Some with the San Francisco Giants, some with the Pittsburgh Pirates. With the You remember him and Bobby Bonilla, excuse me. Him and Bobby Bonilla
Bobby Bone.
played for the Pittsburgh Pirates
Mm-hmm.
in the '90s when they made those appearances in the NLCS.
Right.
Um, Actually, they went 3 straight years. I didn't realize they went 3 straight years.
Yeah.
They
It
went
was a
three straight
nine. It
years.
was what, 90 to 92,
Yeah,
92.
absolutely. So you had in 1990, he had 18 at bats and only 3 hits. Not good, right?
Right.
However, he was walked 6 times. So 18 at bats, 3 hits. You walk 6 times. That's 9. You strike out 5 times. That's 14. So that's only 10 at bats from there, where something else may have happened. 2 stolen bases. This is 1990. This is first playoffs.
Right.
2 stolen bases. This and it's only in the NLCS. This is
Right.
not
Right. Right.
because back then. So for people that don't know, like you
Right.
see the playoffs, all the playoffs now, but back then there was only one round in the playoffs, and then there's one round, then you went to the World Series. 92 at 27 at bats, 1 run scored, 4 hits. He had a double. He was walked twice. He had 4 strikeouts. He batted 148. Terrible. But it's playoffs, right? It's professional. He had 23 at bats in 92's NLCS. 6 hits, 4 strikeouts, 6 walks. Not bad. He batted 261. So I'll just go through right now and just go through the averages. So, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was reading the on base percentage.
No, no, you were
No,
right.
no, I'm
It
right. Oh
was.
no, batting average.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. You're right.
In '97 he batted 250 in the playoffs. In 2000, damn, he went from 97 2000. Yeah. So in 2000 he batted 176 in the playoffs. Not good. Not good at all. Um, in 2002 he batted 294 in the playoffs. Not bad. In 2000. Well, he got 2000. Oh, he got 3 rounds in 2002. Sorry.
2000. Right.
So in the NLDS, he batted 294, not bad. In the NLCS, he batted 273, not bad. And in the World Series, he batted 471, which is amazing. And that's what you said. You said he in that year he was amazing. So they lost to Anaheim in 7 games. He has 30 plate appearances, 17 at bats. And for those that don't know, a plate appearance and an at bat are not the same thing, even though they both require you to go up to the plate.
To show up.
Baseball is so finicky, it's so weird.
So stupid sometimes.
Um, he had 3 runs, 2 hits. He only had 2 hits in that NLDS in '03. That's actually pretty. But he batted 222.
Hmm.
NLDS in 2003. That was the last time in the playoffs was 03?
Yep.
Wow.
So I'll go ahead and read off Reggie Jackson's numbers.
Yours be
So,
better.
well, yeah. Um, so in '71 he batted 333 in the ALCS. In
333. Nice.
'72 in the '72 ALCS. So here's the thing, especially in the '70s. So like '77, right in the World Series, he batted 450 and had
Can
five home runs.
can I stop you real quick one time? I just want to read this one stat about Barry that I failed to mention.
Uh oh.
In that World Series year, in the World Series itself, he had 30 plate appearances, and but only 17 of those were counted as at bats, right? So almost half his appearances were considered at bats. He was walked 13 times in the World Series. He was walked 13 times in the World Series and still batted 471
Yeah, you got me there because the most walks that Reggie Jackson had in any type of playoff was five.
in any playoffs.
In
Wow.
any playoffs,
But
five was
but
the
that
most.
speaks to the era.
Yeah,
It
it
speaks to era
does.
is what I'm saying. They challenged you in that era.
Yep, yep,
And as time went on in baseball, things just kind of became game plan,
right.
right? You're not playing, you're game planning now. You're pitching around a Mike Trout, a Barry Bonds. They were pitching around Ryan Howard. They were
Hmm.
pitching around Mark McGuire. Okay, kinda. They were pitching around Sammy
And
Sosa.
well, they stopped pitching around Ryan Howard when they figured out he wasn't going to hit a curveball no more, and he
Slider,
refused to change.
the slider. He couldn't hit the slider to
Jesus,
save his life.
and
He's
he
he's
should
still
still be
trying to
play.
figure that out.
I have an anger piece I want to do on Ryan Howard because he should still be playing, and I'm pissed off because he never changed his game. Sorry, back to Reggie and Barry.
Well, that's kind of true. That's kind of true. But shout out to the '08 Phillies or '07, whatever year it was we won the World Series.
Oh wait.
Shout out to those Phillies. Those Phillies.
So why don't we like to do like the true comparison? If we do the final stat line, all the numbers together, right? So
Mhm.
Reggie Jackson played a total of 77 playoff games, including ALDS, LCS, World Series, right? Barry Bonds played a total of 48 games, World Series, playoffs, all that.
Right.
So the stat line, Barry Bonds in 48 games batted 245 with 9 home runs, 24 RBIs, 52 walks. Now Reggie,
52 walks and
52.
nine. What was it? 9 what? 9 years and 9 playoff years. She said right.
Right, 48. We'll do
Seven. Yeah.
48 games. Yeah, 28, 208 plate appearances.
Okay.
So for Reggie Jackson, he played in 77 games, 318 plate appearances. He batted 278 with 18 home runs and 48 RBIs. He only had 33 walks
While being challenged.
while being challenged. Yeah.
And I think that is one of the biggest caveats to this debate, which makes this debate hard to debate. They challenged you a lot more than they like even if they were still challenging in the '90s and the 2000s,
Hmm.
they didn't challenge Barry if they didn't have to. They just did. We saw it. It became a highlight on SportsCenter that Barry Bonds was getting walked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
With the bases loaded.
With the bases with the bases loaded. If there is a time that you want to intentionally walk somebody and allow the opposing team to score,
Right.
Barry was a bad dude, man. Steroids or not, I mean, you still have to hit the ball. You still have to hit the ball.
You know what the caveat for me though is
What's that?
if with all the stats, with all the walks, with all the home runs, with all the RBIs, why couldn't he win a World Series? Yet with Reggie Jackson, with all
He
the
won
walks, with
plenty
all the
of them.
strikeouts, he got 5 World Series, and he was in the playoffs 11 of his 17 years in the big leagues. So
So
why?
this is what I would this is what I'll this is I'll try to answer that, right? First of all, we all know and people that play baseball know one man doesn't make a difference, right? Um you can walk Barry and pitch to other people, right? You can walk and then he has a less of an effect on the game. But do me a favor and repeat your question just because I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, I lost my
This is
train
gonna
of thought there.
you're gonna need to start having your drink your ginkgo biloba like an hour before.
All right.
So
You said why didn't he win?
yeah, why
Because he
didn't he
didn't have
win?
a team that was good enough to win, in my opinion. Like
Okay.
who was on those teams?
Okay. So I'm going to look at the 77 Yankees and you look at the
And but also let's also look at the teams that they played against, right? In
okay.
those years. Because if they got there, all right. Let's see, because of course he always ended his playoffs in a loss because he never won a championship, right?
Right. Right.
So why is this happening around? So Pittsburgh, we know what happened in Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
They ran into a couple buzzsaws
But
in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh was a great team. You had Andy Van Slyke, Bobby
Right. They were
Bonilla. They
probably a
were.
better team than he had in San Francisco.
I would probably debate that only because like so. All right. So the 02
And San
Giants
Francisco had a tough squad. I
they
think
had
the best San Francisco team was the team that didn't make the playoffs the year that the Phillies went to the World Series. That San Francisco team, and I think like Willie McGee, I think was on that. They had a squad, and the
in
only
08.
reason, no, in in the early '90s, Barry was
93.
gone. Barry was gone in '08. In '93, the Giants had a
93 they had it.
squad,
Yes, they
and
did.
if I'm not mistaken, they had one. They definitely had one of the best records in the league. It came down, and I know you remember this because I know you're a fan. It came down to the last weekend in the
Yes.
season,
Yep.
and they had never beaten the Atlanta Braves in a 4-game series, and they had to win the 4-game series,
Right.
and they
And they
didn't,
were
and that's
and the
and Atlanta went on to the playoffs.
and I remember that because the Giants were the first team ever to win 100 games and not make the playoffs.
And on top of
Yep.
that, they were whooping up on the Phillies the entire year. And if the Phillies had saw them in the playoffs, the Phillies were not going to beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember watching. I went to a Phillies game at the Vet that year, and Kurt Schilling was pitching. And I remember Barry Bonds hit this line drive double. I swear, if they did like exit velo at that time, it looked like it was like 110 miles an hour off the bat, and they lost 10-6. They got blown out that day. It was like 13-6, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, we're not gonna beat them in the playoffs. But
No.
they had on that team in '93, they had Will Clark,
Yep.
Robbie Thompson, Royce Clayton was whatever, but they had Matt
Royce
Williams who
Clayton.
hit
This
38
is
home
Royce
runs,
Clayton.
Bobby Barry Bonds with the 46. But they had like their outfit. Other than that was like Darren Lewis and like you said Willie McGee. They weren't really loaded, other than him and Matt Williams.
What were their pitching? What was their pitching looking like?
Um,
Because like back then, like the pitching you knew it was the Atlanta Braves. That was the pitching you knew.
right. So
You
they
knew
had
their rotation.
they had some guy named Billy Swift, John Burkett. I remember him.
Burkett was
And
good.
then Trevor Wilson and Bud Black, who were actually both injured and older. Um, they had Rod Beck, who was a good closer, but everybody else were like journeymen. So that's probably why they wound
How
up
was that
losing.
squad? How was that squad so good?
How
This was the '93 Giants
Giants?
that you just read, right?
Yeah,
How was that squad so good? I mean, well, they didn't make the playoffs, so it doesn't really matter. The Braves made the
uh,
playoffs. The Phillies beat the Braves, and the Braves were loaded. We know the Braves were loaded. They
I
were
mean
loaded
they
for
were
years.
they were second in wins. Their ERA was fifth. So they had good pitching. They had a good bullpen. They had good starting.
It's funny. Who was second with their staff or
Their
their
pitching
whole
staff
team?
in the entire in the they were set fifth in the National League in ERA that year.
And that year, of course, they came in second to the Braves when there was only two divisions:
Right.
the NL East and the NL West.
Hmm.
And the Braves and the Giants were in the same division. Phillies were in a different division.
Right.
Came down last weekend of the season. Phillies handled their business. Braves beat the Giants in their business, and then the Phillies and the Braves end up meeting in the playoffs and end up having a classic playoff series
Hmm.
and went on to the World Series. Had a classic World Series that ended in a classic way. Still hurts to this day.
Yeah.
Damn Joe Carter.
Joe Carter.
Um, but you know that's the debate. That's the debate. We were talking Reggie Jackson, Barry Bonds, who was better and why. I'm taking Barry Bonds before I take Reggie Jackson. Pops over there is taking Reggie Jackson before he takes Barry Bonds. I'm sure we'll bring. I'm sure. I'm sorry. I'm sitting and watching the Phillies. I think Girardi just got tossed. I'm not really sure.
Oh, sweet.
Um, I forgot what I was saying, but I think I was getting ready to wrap this up. That's the debate. Okay, this is the Check Swing podcast. And this is what we'll be doing. We'll be bringing up debates. We'll be talking about situations in coaching. As I said earlier in the show, we're both coaches. We're going to be bringing up many different things that we encounter throughout our journey in life of playing baseball. I thought about it today. Right, I'll be 40 in 2 months, basically.
Oh man.
Um, I've been playing baseball for 35 years of my life. Like I've been involved with the game for 35 years. I started playing at 5 years old. I've been involved with this game for 35 years.
I was about to
I
say,
didn't
man.
think anything in my life would 30. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't fathom 35 years of my life anything except for my own age, and I can't believe I'm about to turn 40.
You're
But
about to turn 40, or you are 40?
I'll be 40 on July 4th.
Damn it!
Yeah, I got you beat.
Shut up.
But you get to retire before me, technically.
Technically, I'll be. Oh my god, I'll be 42.
You got me way beat,
Yeah.
pops. I can really call you pops now. Gramps. Remember that kid called you Gramps?
Oh, I never wanted to punch a kid dead in the face so bad in my life. I'm like, who's this
See you
little
later,
red,
Gramps.
this little redheaded prick? See ya, Gramps,
That was
with his stupid little beads in his wrist. Jerk. Sorry.
that was funny. Look, we're going to close it out now. This is the Check Swing podcast. This was our first run. This was our first episode. Of course, you can check out this episode over on our Twitch channel. You can check it out over on our YouTube channel. That's the New Twist Radio YouTube channel. As you can see right up there, right up there, you can catch New Twist Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But you can also now check the Check Swing podcast. This is becoming a tongue twister. You can catch the Check Swing podcast on Instagram at Check Swing Podcast. Go ahead. We have one post, but we will be posting more. All right. Miguel, you got any last words before we get out of here?
Reggie Jackson over Barry Bonds, Mr. October. But no, I'm excited about the future. I think it was a great conversation tonight. I'm looking forward to encouraging other minority coaches, um, to join us, to start chatting with us and calling in, and hopefully we can be a support system. Especially trying to coach and trying to build baseball back up in our inner cities, and um, just bringing the game back to life in areas where it's kind of dead.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, we're both coaches, and we have a wealth of knowledge in the game. We got a lot of stories to tell and a lot of things to talk about. So definitely stick around for that. I want to end this podcast by saying first, I want to say Barry Bonds over Reggie Jackson. Okay. And then I'm going to say, on a serious note, I want to say rest in peace to Rena Bishop. She was a student athlete at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. At the same time, when I was there, she was a two-sport athlete. She played volleyball and softball. And if anybody, if you played sports in college, you know that the athletes are a very kind of tight knit group, and to lose Rena as early as we did, as untimely as we did, everybody in the Hawk family is affected, and we just want to say rest in peace, Rena. We love you, and we want to thank you for all the good times that you were able to share with us. And with that being said, we're going to end the Check Swing podcast right there for Miguel, aka Pops, and myself. We'll catch y'all next time on the Check Swing. Don't swing if you don't mean to. You better check it. Talk to y'all next time. We out of here. Peace.